Hi.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, can you believe it is freaking January? I don't even know where this year went. I feel like literally since I started my channel, it's been a blur. The entire year has been an absolute freaking blur. I think my first monthly wrap up I did was in April, and the fact that I'm sitting here doing my December one now is so bonkers. It just has flown by. It's been a beautiful year, mostly because of you guys. I've just loved it so much. But yes, December was a crazy month. I was so busy, but the end kind of winded down. I went on vacation. I got a lot of books read. So I have 9 books to talk to you guys about today. Most of them have their own dedicated video on my channel already, but because I was on vacation the last like week and a half and holidays and everything, I am a tiny bit behind. So like the last half of these books all have reviews coming in the next week. I'm literally filming like all of them today, so I promise they're coming super soon, so I won't go super into depth on those because the videos are gonna come out in like 5 seconds. But yes, let's just get into it. This natural lighting is making me look like a literal ghost. Oh my gosh. Okay, the first book I read in the month of December was Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. This was a brother's best friend, fake dating, little rom-com moment that was very cute, very spicy. Basically, this story follows a girl named Georgie and a guy named Travis. Travis is Georgie's older brother's best friend. He, growing up, was the star of the baseball team in high school, and Georgie was always in love with him, obsessed with him, as can be expected, and Travis ended up going on to be in the MLB, playing baseball professionally, but he only played for a short while because he ended up having a career-ending injury that has now brought him back to their small town that they live in, and Travis is very down in the dumps, doesn't know what to do with his life, as to be expected. Like, he was obviously a professional baseball player and now he's retired before he's even 30 and doesn't know what to do. And Georgie is pretty much the only person that's like not having any pity on him. She's like, you need to get your life together, let's go. Georgie, on the other hand, is struggling because she is 23, she's figuring out her life, and she is a clown, literally, for birthday parties. She does like child entertainment for parties, and she is the youngest of 3 siblings, and she's having a really hard time being taken seriously by the people in this town. Everyone sees her as a little kid or as a clown, and right about the time that Georgie's going through this, Travis ends up getting an offer to be a commentator for a sports team, but their only issue with him is that he is known as like a womanizer, a player. He has this reputation, so him and Georgie end up having the genius idea that it would be really smart for them to fake date, because then Travis will look like a wholesome man that's in a steady relationship, and Georgie will be taken more seriously by people in this town because she's dating Travis Ford, this like guy that everybody wants that's a professional baseball player. Like, it's kind of a win-win situation. We all know how these fake dating stories go. It was very spicy, it was very cute. The story itself, honestly, was like a 3 for me. The spice was a 5, so do with that what you will. It was cute, not the greatest thing I've ever read, but it was a fun little time. The next book that I read in December was actually a reread because the Hating Game movie was coming out, and the Hating Game is just about my favorite book of all time, like in the top 3, definitely my favorite rom-com ever. Joshua Templeman is my favorite book boyfriend to ever exist. I adore this book with my entire heart, and I was so excited that the movie was coming out that I just had to reread it before I went and watched it, and I was so happy that I did because honestly, I loved it 10 times more than the first time that I read it. Like, I just cannot get enough of this book. I've talked about it so much on this channel, but very basic synopsis. It's about Lucy and Josh. They both work for publishing houses that ended up merging with each other, so they have the same position. They're both assistants to the co-CEOs, so they work in the same office. They're like facing each other all day. They can't stand each other. Literally, they are polar opposites. Joshua is very like straight-laced, MBA graduate, wears suit and ties, everything is organized on his desk. Lucy is just like very eccentric and just like quirky, and her desk is a mess, it's organized chaos, like it's just all over the place. But yeah, they can't stand each other. They're constantly bickering and arguing. They give HR like the hardest time because they are always reporting each other, can't stand each other. But the kicker of this whole story is Joshua and Lucy are both now up for the same position at the company, so they are battling for it. And throughout this story, it becomes very obvious that the line between hate and love is very fuzzy, and it is just the greatest book. Like, they have the most amazing banter. Joshua is just the most incredible everything. I don't even know what to say. I love this book with my whole heart. If you haven't read it yet, seriously, stop what you're doing and read it. It is like the original enemies to lovers workplace romance, and that's my favorite trope. This is my favorite book in that trope. I love it. Next, I read A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the third book in the ACOTAR series. If you don't know what the ACOTAR series is, A Court of Thorns and Roses, I genuinely don't know how to explain it to you, especially like 3 books in. It's a high fantasy fairy situation. The world is so vast and huge. Sarah J. Maas's brain makes no sense to me, but I'm very grateful for it. Hi Draco, would you like to join the party? But yeah, the series is really so good. This was not my favorite in the series. It was my least favorite, to be honest. Still very good, but A Court of Mist and Fury simply can't be topped. Like, that's one of the best books to ever exist. But yeah, if you're interested, I did an entire reading vlog of this if you want all my reactions along the way. It was a very interesting time. The next book that I read is actually one that I listened to, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of my favorite books I've read all year. It was, I cried a lot. This story is basically like a documentary of a fake band that existed in the 70s called Daisy Jones and the Six. It's done in like script format, so we're basically hearing from all the members of the band, all the people that were involved in the creation and the success of this band, and we're basically seeing like how each of them started out, how they came together, how they rose to success and fame, and how the band ultimately broke apart. This story just felt so real. Like, I cried mostly at the end just because of the fact that it wasn't real, that I couldn't go and like listen to this album that we got to see them write and create together, and that I couldn't go and watch videos of the 2 main characters performing together. Daisy and Billy are like the 2 lead singers, head of this band. There's a lot of bickering and tension between the 2 because they're so different yet so the same at the same time. They're so stubborn, they're so talented. It's a whole thing. I made a whole like 15-minute spoiler-free review video on this book if you want my more in-depth thoughts, but yeah, it was incredible, and 100% I recommend listening to it. The audiobook, it felt so real because it's in script format. Like, each person was like a different person's voice, and it just, I listened to it all on a road trip that was very long, and it was amazing. So the next book I read in the month of December was actually this little novella. I read it on Christmas Eve. It's called Dipped in Holly by Dana Izali. I had seen this like all over TikTok and stuff. I didn't even realize it was a novella until it showed up, and I was like, oh my god, this is so short. This basically, if I'm gonna be honest with you, is one big, my Bucky Barnes bookmark is in this. I'm glad I found that, or I probably never would have. It's one big spicy scene, to be quite honest. It's about this girl that goes to this bar, and she gets very publicly broken up with her boyfriend, like figures out that he's been cheating on her, and the owner of the bar like hears her crying in the bathroom, ends up like kicking her boyfriend out, defending her, and then she stays after the bar closes, and literally the whole thing is like one big, very Christmas themed, very spicy scene that ends very cutely. I mean, it was very good. It was a very fun, short little read. I read it in like an hour or so. Probably like, it's not even 100 pages. I read it in like an hour, very late on Christmas Eve. It was very festive. It was very cute and fun and spicy. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about that. And now from here on out are the books that I have not yet made reviews for. So again, I'm just gonna briefly talk about them. But the next book I read was The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. This is the second book in the Maid series, which is a mafia romance companion novel sort of series. This story followed a girl named Gianna, a guy named Christian. Gianna is a part of this mafia group called the Cosa Nostra. Just like all women, she's been married off at a very young age, and Christian Alistair is a federal agent that is in cahoots with the mafia, and they do not get along. We see this story kind of like throughout many years of them encountering each other, lots of angst, lots of bickering, lots of banter, but Gianna, even though Christian kind of can't stand her, is very much his maddest obsession, is all I will say, and it was so freaking good. A million times better than the first book in this series. Just overall, a very good time. I'll say more in my review, but yes. And the next book I read, from here on out, these are all books that I read on my vacation, so I was in the car for 12 hours there and 12 hours back, so I had a lot of time. But I read From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. Mariana Zapata has quickly become one of my absolute favorite authors this year. I'm willing to say like maybe my favorite author, one of them. She's up there. I love her. This book was like my most anticipated Mariana Zapata read. Like when I had first heard about her, this was the one that most interested me. It is an enemies to lovers workplace romance, which is my absolute jam, my favorite trope. But the workplace is figure skating. Basically, the story is about this girl named Jasmine. She ends up getting paired up to figure skate with this guy named Ivan Lukov, who she has grown up with because she is best friends with his little sister, but they have never gotten along. They've never liked each other. She literally calls him like Satan the entire beginning of this book, can't stand him. And they end up getting paired up to skate together. She hates him, doesn't want to do it, but Ivan is like the most renowned figure skater basically in the whole world, like Olympic gold medal champion, all the things. And she knows like that she would benefit from being with him, from learning with him, and he needs a partner. So they end up partnering up, and you literally know how this will go. Like, you know how it'll go. It was very good, but I was a little disappointed, to be honest. I will talk more about this in my review. It was good, just my least favorite of my Mariana Zapata books that I've read. I think it had so much potential and it just fell like kind of flat for me, which made me a little bit sad, but still a fun concept, especially like in winter. I love figure skating and everything about that. And I just wish there was more of that in this book. Like, that's what it was about, but I feel like there was just, again, so much potential. Still good. I would give it 4 stars, but yeah. And the next book I read in the month of December absolutely wrecked me. And it's weird to say that because it absolutely wrecked me, but it's one of my new favorite books of all time. It was one of the best books I read all year. And it was such a good way to end my year. I literally didn't even know what this book was really about. I'd just seen people recommending it and the very basic idea of it. I wanted to read it, but it scared me. And I'm so glad I did, but it still hurt. A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. Oh my God. I literally want to cry just thinking about it. Again, I read this on vacation with my family and I had to like go to the bathroom and like silently cry. And like I was sitting on the couch and like just looking away. Like I cried. I've never cried so much in a book. Like there are a handful of books in my life that have made me cry, but like this book, I was crying in chapter 2. I was crying in chapter 5. I cried at the end for like an hour straight. It was just so heart-wrenching, but also like maybe the most beautiful book I've ever read. Like it was so good. Pretty much, this story follows this girl named Poppy and this guy named Rune. Rune is from Norway, and whenever he was 5, he had to move to Georgia because of his father's work. He immediately meets Poppy, who lives next door to him, and they have like an interesting meeting, but they pretty much hit it off right away. They become like the best of friends because they live next door, because they go to school together, and you know, they're around each other for like 10 years right off the bat. Like they're pretty much, it's like a Sweet Home Alabama vibe. From the age of 5, it's like, I love you, I want all your kisses for life, ha ha, like, but in a cute way, not a cheesy way. So they're literally like together, they become friends and then more once they're in high school. And at the age of about 15, Rune learns that his father is being transferred back to Norway. It's completely heart-wrenching. He has to move back to Norway. And you know, him and Poppy are like, we'll still make this work, like you're my bestest friend. And they talk for a while, but after like 2 months, Poppy just like stops answering Rune's calls and completely cuts him off, and we don't know why. It like destroys Rune. It makes him a very like hardened person. He kind of gets in with the wrong crowd of people. And then we fast forward and we see now, a couple years later, Rune's family is moving back, and they're moving back into the same house because they never sold it. They always intended to come back. And you know, it's obviously like this reunion between Rune and Poppy of like, why did you cut me off? And there's a whole deeper meaning and reason for that. And once we learn it, oh my God. Again, I'll talk a lot more about it in my review, but this book is beautiful, incredible, destroyed me, but one of the most amazing things I've ever read. The cover is very like deceiving. It looks so like cutesy and wholesome, which it is. It is totally like a YA book, but oh my God, just, I can't. And the last book I read in the month of December in the year of 2021, it was only right, truly. It was a reread. I reread Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This was, I think, my favorite book I read all year. And again, just like The Hating Game, maybe my favorite book of all time, like in my top 3. I genuinely, again, cannot say enough about this book. I've talked about it to no end. I've never read a more well-written book than this. Like Colleen Hoover, I don't know what it is, but her writing you do not feel like you're reading a book. You feel like you were there. Like, it's just so easy to to just fly through her books. Like, you feel like you're in it. She has such a way of writing that is like so like simple to consume and understand, but it also like blows your mind at the same time. I don't know. I have a whole spoiler-free review of this on my channel that I will link right here. Very basic synopsis. This story follows a girl named Tate. She is moving into an apartment with her brother in San Francisco, and she, right when she gets there, there's a drunk guy passed out in the hallway against her brother's door. She learns that it is her brother's best friend, Miles, who lives right across the hall. And they have a very weird initial interaction. She like drags him into the apartment. He keeps calling her Rachel. He's like crying. He's like belligerent, drunk, distraught. And she helps him like go to bed on the couch. The next morning they wake up and Miles and her just go at it like angrily. Like, they do not hit it off very well. Like, Miles is very interesting. He's very closed off. He's very just kind of like a jerk to her. And Tate does not want to like him. Tate is like very focused. She's like a nurse. She's going to get her master's in nursing. She like goes to school all week. She works all weekend and like during the nights. She's so focused on her career, but she cannot help but be very attracted to Miles, and very quickly learns that he is also very attracted to her. But the stipulation with Miles is he is like not willing to love anybody like ever again. So he and Tate basically decide, he's like, if we're gonna do this, we're just doing it. It's not anything more. So their relationship is going to be purely physical. He gives her 2 rules. If we're gonna do this, never ask me about my past and never expect a future. So we're seeing that relationship happening like present day, while also every other chapter we're seeing Miles' perspective from in the past when he is meeting this girl Rachel for the first time and falling in love with her. So it's like the whole story, we're seeing Miles and Tate together, their relationship blooming, and like obviously them having feelings for each other, but Miles refusing to let Tate in. And then we're also seeing like Miles's relationship with Rachel and like leading up to what obviously made him this way and made him so hardened and not willing to love. And it's just like the greatest book, literally the greatest book. Again, heart-wrenching. You'll cry for sure, but it's incredible. I would die for Miles. I would die for Tate. They're just my favorite humans in the book world, possibly. I don't know. I love it. And that's it. But yes, guys, that is all of the books that I read in the month of December. It was a fantastic year with you guys. I have so many videos coming up over the next week about like all the books I read this year, my favorite books I read this year, most anticipated releases of this coming year, lots of things. So be on the lookout. I'm in catch-up mode. There's gonna be a video probably damn near every day on my channel this week. But yes, thank you guys as always so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I can't wait for so many more wrap-ups this year and lots of other fun and exciting things to come. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.